This happened when I was in middle school, 6th or 7th grade, somewhere in there. Memory gets fuzzy that far back, but this one I remember clearly. Every single detail. My parents had gone out of town for the night. First time they'd ever left me alone overnight, and I was excited about it. No bedtime, no one telling me what to do. Just me and the whole house to myself. My mom ran through a checklist before she left. Lock the front door, lock the back door, keep a light on downstairs, close all the blinds. I nodded along. I was already thinking about snacks. I should have been paying closer attention. The storm rolled in by evening, not the gentle kind, the kind that makes old houses groan, walls shifting, windows rattling in their frames. I told myself it was just weather. I ate too much junk food, watched TV until my eyes got heavy, and eventually decided it was time for bed. I was already at the bottom of the staircase when it hit me. The back door. My mom's voice cut right through the noise. Make sure everything's locked before you go to bed. I had locked the front door. I was pretty sure I had, but the back door, I couldn't remember touching it. The longer I stood there trying to remember, the less certain I became. That's when I should have just called her. I didn't. Lightning flashed white through the hallway window. I went back down. The kitchen felt different at midnight, smaller. The stove light buzzed faintly, casting everything in pale yellow, the kind of glow that makes shadows look wrong. I walked in and stopped cold. The back door was open, not wide, just a few inches, enough for rain to have been blowing across the tile floor in a thin, dark sheet. I walked closer. The tile was soaked, not from a few minutes of wind, from a while, like it had been open for hours. That's when I looked down. Footprints, wet, distinct, leading from the open door across the tile and into the hallway beyond the kitchen. And they were not mine. I hadn't been outside since I got home from school. These prints were bigger than mine, spaced wider, longer stride. Someone else had walked in. I followed them with my eyes, out of the kitchen, down the hallway, toward the living room. The dark living room. The TV was off, the lights were out. I couldn't see anything past the doorway. And then the floorboard creaked. One slow, deliberate creak from somewhere in that darkness. I didn't think. I backed to the counter, grabbed my phone, and ran. Straight upstairs into my room, locked the door, and pressed my back flat against it. I stood there in the dark, just listening. For a few seconds, nothing, just the storm, then footsteps. On the stairs, slow, unhurried, one step at a time, like whoever it was had nowhere to be and all the time in the world. They reached the top of the stairs and stopped, right outside my door. I held my breath. The door handle moved. Not hard, not forcefully, just a slow, quiet, deliberate turn, the kind you do when you don't want anyone to hear you, when you're trying to get in without waking someone up. It held. The lock held. Silence. And then a voice, soft, right on the other side of the door. "Hey, you forgot to lock the door." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stood there with my back against that door until I must have blacked out. because the next thing I remember is waking up on the floor in morning light. I went downstairs. The back door was closed. The floor was dry. No footprints. No sign that anything had happened at all. I never told my parents. I kept the story to myself for years. But here's what I still think about. Whoever was in my house that night knew my name for the lock. They knew exactly which room was mine. They walked up those stairs like they'd done it before. I check every lock every night. Not out of habit, out of the certainty that one night I'll find one open that I didn't leave that way. I was 17 when this happened. For a long time, I convinced myself it was nothing. That's what you do when something scares you and you can't explain it. You file it away. You call it coincidence. You move on. This one never let me move on. It was a rainy Saturday night, late spring. I'd been out with friends and I was driving home alone. The rain was coming down hard enough that my headlights turned into blur and I could barely see the road lines. I was 10 minutes from home. I kept going. The road was mostly empty. Just me, my headlights, and the occasional streetlight. Then, somewhere around the halfway mark, I noticed a car behind me. At first, nothing unusual. A car on a road isn't news. I clocked it and moved on. But it was still there. Same distance. Same speed. I eased off the gas, the way you do when something feels off. The car slowed down, exactly matching me. I picked up speed. It sped up. Still the same gap. Precise. Deliberate, like it was being maintained on purpose. I turned onto a side street, random, not my usual route, just to test it. The car turned too. I took another turn, then another. Both times the car was right there. 3 random turns on empty roads at midnight. That's not coincidence. My hands were tight on the wheel and my mind was doing the math. I was 3 minutes from my house, and I wasn't going home. I headed for the nearest gas station instead. Lit up, visible, somewhere people would be. As I pulled into the lot, the car behind me slowed and stopped, right at the entrance. It didn't come in. Just sat there at the edge of the light with its engine running and its headlights on, watching me pull into a parking spot. And then the driver's door opened. Someone got out. I couldn't make out details. Rain, distance, the glare of the station lights. But I could see a figure standing by the car, facing in my direction. Not moving toward me. Just standing there. I sat frozen with my hand on my door handle, watching. 5 seconds. 10. The figure didn't move. Then the headlights clicked off. The figure got back in. The car reversed slowly, steadily, backing away from the entrance until the taillights disappeared into the rain. Just like that. Gone. I stayed at that gas station for a long time. I went inside, stood under the lights, bought something I didn't want, and waited until I felt okay. When I finally drove home, I watched my mirrors the whole way. Nothing followed me. I went inside, locked the door, and sat down. That's when I noticed my phone. A missed call. Unknown number. While I was driving, there was a voicemail. I almost didn't listen. Rain. Just heavy, constant rain at first. I started to lower the phone. Then, underneath it, a voice. Barely there. Like someone speaking with their mouth turned away from the mic. Wrong turn. 2 words. Then silence. I've spent years trying to decide what that meant. Whether it was a warning, that I'd avoided something by not going home, or a threat, or just someone who knew where I almost went. Here's what I keep coming back to. They had my number, and they were close enough to watch me make every turn in real time, which means at some point, before that night, they had been close enough to get it. I never got another call, but I check my mirrors on rainy nights, every time, because I know that once someone decides to follow you home, the road never really feels empty again. Before I tell this story, I need you to understand something about me. I've been camping alone since my early 20s. Not campgrounds, actual remote camping, middle of nowhere spots, places where you don't see another person for days. I know what forests sound like at night. I know how to stay rational in the dark. I've made peace with being alone out there. What happened that night was not something I imagined. One night, solo trip, trail I'd done before. Forecast was clear. I set up camp in the late afternoon, got settled before dark, and crawled into my tent around 10. The rain started after midnight, not in the forecast, but steady and calm against the fabric. The kind of sound that should be easy to sleep to. Should be. Except for what came with it. Footsteps. Not snapping branches or crunching leaves. The soft, deliberate compression of wet soil, like someone stepping carefully, slowly. I opened my eyes and lay completely still. The steps circled the tent, one full, slow loop, then stopped, right outside, right where my head was. Animals don't move like that. Animals move towards something or away from it. Whatever was outside was circling, methodical, like it was taking inventory. I grabbed my flashlight, waited, unzipped the door just a few inches, and pointed the beam outside. Trees, rain, nothing I could see. I almost laughed at myself. Then I pointed the light down. Footprints, barefoot, human. Deep impressions in the mud, looping all the way around the tent and stopping right at the spot where my head had been resting. I zipped the door shut fast, killed the light, sat in the dark and listened. For a minute, nothing. Just rain. Then the breathing started. Right outside the tent wall. Right next to my face. Low, slow, and heavy. Controlled, deliberate breathing. Not an animal. A person crouched down with their face close to the fabric. It wasn't moving. It was just listening, the same way I was. I stopped breathing entirely, and then a hand pressed flat against the tent from the outside. I saw the shape through the fabric, 5 fingers spread wide, palm down, right in front of my face, separated from me by one thin layer of nylon. It didn't push, didn't grab, just rested there. Perfectly still, like it wanted me to feel it. I don't know how long I sat like that. I couldn't move, couldn't make a sound. The hand stayed, the breathing stayed, the rain kept falling, and then both just stopped. No retreating footsteps, no rustle of movement. One moment they were there, and then they weren't. I didn't sleep. I sat with the flashlight in my hand until the sky went from black to gray to pale blue. Then I unzipped the tent and stepped out. The handprint on the outside of the tent was gone, washed away or never pressed hard enough to leave one. I still don't know, but the footprints were still there, circling the tent exactly once, then leading away, stride widening like someone picking up speed until they disappeared into the tree line a few yards out. 9. No more prints after that. Just forest. Like whatever had been standing outside my tent in the dark had simply ceased to exist past the tree line. I've been back to that trail twice since then, in daylight with other people. It looks peaceful. It looks like nothing. I haven't camped alone since, because I keep thinking about the footprints, how they circled the tent exactly once, stopped at my head, and then walked away. Whoever it was already knew where I was sleeping. They didn't need a second look.